Welcome to the Rat Race to 5 podcast, where we discuss money, mindset, real estate investing, and ways to achieve financial independence. Whether you are a rookie or a veteran needing new ideas for investing or creating side hustles, you're in the right place. Here to challenge you to think out of the box, your hosts, Felipe Mejia and Diego Corzo.
Diego, what's going on, brother? Super excited for today's show at Rat Race to 5 podcast, dude. I am really excited to have Justin on today.
Yeah, bro, same here. I really like the way that he shares the story about being a family man, but also like his investing journey, the ups and downs that comes from that, creating passive income while working on his active income. So it's a really good episode.
Yeah, I'm super excited because he gets really vulnerable on like the behind the scenes of real estate investing, because I feel like a lot of time on podcasts, we hear these like great stories and everything is pink roses and flowers and daisies and like there's no bumps and bruises, but that's just not the truth. So I love that Justin got vulnerable, talked about his wins and his losses. So let's jump right into it. Justin, welcome to the show, man. What's up, Justin, man? So excited to have you on Rat Race to 5 podcast, dude. Seriously, thank you for taking the time out so that we can get to know you and talk to you. I'm here with Diego Corzo. What's up, Diego?
What's up, Felipe? Very excited to be here. How about you?
Oh, dude, super hype, especially to have the man, the myth, the legend, Justin on here. Justin, what's up, dude? Welcome to the show.
Hey, Felipe and Diego. What's up, guys? Thanks for having me. This is exciting. I'm ready to do it.
Yeah, I'm super excited to dig in, especially because you've actually had both of us on your podcast, but I'm not going to lie, I'm a little jelly that you've had Diego twice.
Yep, 2 times. He's the OG, so he got on like right in the very beginning, a long time ago, like I think episode number 5 or something, and had to come back and follow up, but glad to get both of you guys on there.
Oh, dude, absolutely. So, Justin, a lot of people know your podcast. Super shout out to that. I really enjoy it myself. You do a lot of, just based on your Instagram, you do a lot of real estate, but you also do a lot of like fitness, but there's probably a lot more to Justin that's not on social media. So if you wouldn't mind telling us a little bit first, let's start out with, what does your portfolio look like? What do you do in real estate? What's your niche? Like really dig into that if you don't mind.
Yeah, for sure. First of all, I really hate social media. I think it's a great tool and I'm trying to like get better at it, obviously by posting more stuff, but it's just like time consuming and it just sucks me in just like everybody. So I try to like keep my distance on it, but yeah, currently my portfolio, what I currently have is 12 rental units out here in Idaho. I had 6 other properties out in California that I sold over the last couple years. I lived in California, grew up, born and raised, and then my wife and I moved out here to Idaho just this summer. So I guess we're recording this whenever in the new year. But July 2020, we moved out here to Idaho. And I was a lineman for 13 years and kind of decided to give the real estate full-time attention for now. So anyways, mostly buy and hold. I've done some flips, some house hacks, different things like that. And currently started a real estate business trying to buy off market properties. Haven't been having a ton of success recently in that since I've gone, but at least the passive income that I've created has afforded me the opportunity to be able to kind of go that direction and give it a good go. So that's where I'm at now. Just 12 units as of now, and sold off the rest and made a little bit of money in the meantime.
Did you say you sold off your some properties?
Yeah, I mean, I sold the last 6 properties that I had in California. For one, I didn't really want rental properties there anymore. I had a duplex and several single families. But California is just the way the landlord tenant laws are. I sold them before, all of them except for one before COVID. I sold one during COVID. And out there, just the way it is in California, it's just not an environment that I want to hold rentals. And the price has gone up drastically, so I was able to make a little bit of money in the meantime and keep that money to help live on, right, while I'm in addition to my cash flow.
So the 12 doors that you own, are those into like small multifamily, 12 single family homes? What does that look like?
Yeah, there's 3 fourplexes. So they're in a complex of 4 fourplexes. So I tried to buy all 4 of them and, somebody else got the 4th one before I could, but yeah, what I have currently is just the 3 4-plexes. They're great. They're here in Idaho. It's next to a military base, so most of the tenants are military. Haven't had any issues. I think I've had over 3 years that I've owned these. I've had like 2 or 3 late payments. Other than that, it's been perfect, smooth sailing. So it's been great so far.
Cool. And do you manage those properties yourself?
No, I don't manage them. I've managed my other properties in the past, and these ones, that had a manager that was in place when I ended up buying them. And some people say, oh, maybe you want to change management, whatever. This, I happened to give her a try. I was like, let me just try her out for 6 months. The lady that was there, she's been fantastic. She lives like close by to the properties. She was in the military, or her husband, I think, was in the military. So she's really connected with the military base there locally. So everybody kind of knows her. She does an excellent job, and she only charges me $480 a month for all 3 buildings. So it comes down to like less than 3%. She charges me to manage them. So I can't really complain. I give her like a Christmas bonus every year, like $400 or $500. I pay her instantly. At first she was just taking checks. I would have to mail her checks. And I kind of brought up the idea of Venmo or Zeal through B of A or Chase or whatever. And so she ended up doing that. And now as soon as she sends me any bills, like no matter what I'm doing, I get on my phone and I send her the money right away. And that keeps them really happy, right? Instead of them having to wait. So I think that's part of the reason why she hasn't really raised my what she charges me too. So yes, I don't manage them, but she's fantastic.
She's gonna hear this podcast and be like, wait a minute, I could raise that. I could charge a little more.
Well, yeah, I was like, man, maybe I shouldn't post this on my social now. I don't know.
That's hilarious. Justin, let me ask you really quick before we get too far and into it. Why did you get started in real estate? I know you said you're a lineman. But why real estate? Why was this the path that you wanted to take?
Yeah, well, I didn't really know that it was, obviously, like most people that gets into it. When I bought my first property, it was in 2009. I think I was 20 years old, and I was living in the Bay Area in California. I was an apprentice lineman. And I guess I was 21. And then the only reason I even bought that property was just because my cousin, who was 5 months older than me, he bought his first house. So he was slightly older. We were always kind of competitive, like brothers, and I was like, well, shoot, he bought a house. I guess I need to buy a house, right? Like that's like the thing to do. So I bought it. And, right after I bought it, I think around that time I had read Rich Dad Poor Dad, and I kind of had the idea in my head. So I kind of fixed the property up, living in it, sold the property after 2 years, and I made like $100,000. And, luckily I was smart enough to realize that I'd lost plenty of money buying toys in the past, over the previous couple of years. And I was like, well, I don't want to lose this $100,000. So what should I do? And that's kind of what started when I bought my first rental property with that money, along with my next house that I kind of fixed up and lived in for a little bit myself. So it was really just the fact of being a little bit frugal and not wanting to lose the money is what got me into real estate. And then once I started, obviously found Bigger Pockets, and all the other real estate channels out there. But again, just like everybody, Rich Dad Poor Dad, I think played a role in that. And realizing that I didn't know if I wanted to work on power lines the rest of my life, maybe I should plan a little different,
No, yeah. And dude, what's really cool, what you said was that your cousin bought a property first, and then you bought a property, right? And a lot of people may not really think that would be like, that's probably something that you share often, but it does create some kind of like accountability, or like, if he could do it, why can I do it? Right? Yeah. Even if you were young, like you said, he was just 5 months older. And I feel like that, like if we chunk that down, that is one of the reasons why I'm a big believer in having people connect with other people that are taking the actions that they want, right? Because it creates the average. Have you seen other people that you have been able to influence them in that way as well?
Yeah, I mean, so That's kind of a big question because there's people that obviously that I've grown up with and that I've been around that, they want to kind of do the same thing that I've done. And some of them have, had jobs that weren't as good as mine or better than mine, whatever. And some people take action, but, not a lot of people do, which was part of the reason why we kind of wanted to move to Idaho, my wife and I, because we were in such a small town that there's people that would always ask me questions and stuff, but nobody would really take action. And I wasn't able to get around people that I, like was where I wanted to be. So that was part of the reason for us moving, but I definitely have influenced people now having the podcast, and the social media and then meeting people in the new area. It definitely feels good to kind of pave the way, or at least help them, point them in the right direction. I usually point them to, hey, go listen to Bigger Pockets, go read this book, go listen to this audiobook, whatever, like that. And it's cool to see people take action for sure.
Yeah.
I love that. So, all right. So we've transitioned from your real estate and what you're doing, but I really want to dig into who is Justin, right? A lot of people have like a social media view of who people on Instagram are or on their podcast, or maybe even they start making a judgment of people based on like interviews they've done, right? And if you do that, then everyone else's life is perfect and mine sucks, right? So I really want to get to know. And I like what you said earlier where you were like, dude, I hate social media, right? It's kind of like something that's ingrained that we have to use now as part of like what we do as investors and stuff. But you're right. Like there's so much malinformation on Instagram. So one of the reasons we did this podcast was because we really want to get to know people for who they really are, if they're willing to share. So Justin, let's take it back. This is probably one of my favorite questions, but what clique were you part of in high school, and like who were you in high school?
Yeah, totally. Okay. Well, I haven't ever been asked that on a podcast before, so that's good. I like that. But part of in high school, let's see. Well, I grew up playing some sports. I played soccer for like 11 years. I tried to play basketball and baseball and stuff, but I wasn't that good. So I never really made like the A team. I was like on the B team. But part of that reason is I grew up riding dirt bikes, racing dirt bikes, like more of the extreme sports, snowboarding every weekend because we live next to a ski resort. So my time was not always focused on the sports thing. So in high school, I was kind of mid-level popular, not popular, not popular. I was kind of just like, I would float around. Some days I would be, with one group, and the other days I'd be with another group of kids. But it was definitely, I was more focused on, either riding dirt bikes, snowboarding, or going four-wheeling in my truck out in the woods. It was kind of like where my mind was at in the high school days, for sure.
Okay. And then keep going. Like what happened then? What was the story from high school to college? What did you do in college? Like give us all the way up until basically kind of where you're at now.
Okay. So definitely didn't go to college. I knew kind of I didn't always want to go to college. My parents were always kind of wanting me to go that route, So I did the whole thing, applied to a bunch of colleges, got accepted to a few. I was not a great student, but probably average like 3.2 to 3.5 was like my GPA. I probably didn't put as much time into school as I should have, like most people. Then after high school, I ended up going to the Navy. I went to the Navy right after I got out of high school. But I didn't go in on like a regular, it wasn't like a standard thing. I went in for nuclear engineering. I just happened to get a good score on my ASVAB by luck, took this nuclear training test, barely passed it by the skin of my teeth. Didn't really want to do it, but my parents kind of wanted me to do that because the after effects would be good. So honestly, I went to the Navy and then failed the school, didn't make it, was able to get out after a little more than a year, but I got out honorable discharge. The times, it was really complicated, but the times I went in strictly for this nuclear training program, didn't make it because I wasn't that smart. Should have probably never went into it to begin with. But one good thing that was happened with that is because I got an honorable discharge, I was able to get part of my GI Bill, which helped me then when I went to become an apprentice lineman. So after I got out of the Navy, I came home and I didn't really know what I wanted to do. Obviously, I came home and I was like 19 after being in it for over a year. Came home, my parents were like, well, you can stay here for a little bit, but Like
They gave you a timeline on it.
like, yeah, and you're now over 18, so you can't stay here that long. So you need to figure out what you're going to do. So I went back to work at a grocery store in my hometown, and I was like, what am I doing? You know, I'm like 19. I'm going back. I'm making $7 an hour, $6.50 an hour, whatever minimum wage was. And I thought I was like, well, I like to be outside. You know, I kind of have some sort of electrical background because I went to this nuclear electrical engineering in the Navy, but I failed anyway. So maybe I wasn't that good at it. So I decided maybe a lineman's good, being a lineman. So I looked up a lineman college. There was one here in Idaho.
Now, real quick, sorry to cut you off, Justin. When you say lineman, you mean like the guys putting up electrical lines, like on posts and stuff, right? Okay.
Yeah, like if anybody knows me, I'm not that big of a guy. I'm 5'10", like 190. So I definitely didn't play football. There's a little.
There it is.
So it wasn't a lineman, like a football lineman, but I've had people ask me that before, like, oh, you played football? I'm like, no. I like work on power lines, you know, like those things up in the air. Gives you,
dude, I've recently met like 2 or 3 people that do that. And
yeah,
now not to be whatever, but they look like they're sitting cush, dude. Does that pay well?
Yeah, so it can pay a lot, especially in California. So each area, right, you kind of work for, you're in the union. So each area pays different. They have different pay scales depending on which union you're part of. But in California, definitely pays a lot. I think as a journeyman lineman, once you go through your apprenticeship, you know, you can definitely make $400,000 or $500,000 a year if you want to work a lot. But that's like that's 7 days a week all year to make that much money, you know. And there's guys that do it, but most of them are divorced or alcoholics. So that's kind of what like led me to not wanting to do it forever. Yeah. But we'll get back to that in a minute for sure. So I went to the lineman school, ended up get hired at 20 years old for the utility in California, PG&E. Everybody knows what PG&E is, I'm sure, if you're from the West Coast. So I did that, worked in that for, you know, several years, met my wife, did all that sort of thing, became a journeyman lineman. And while I was in there, that's when I kind of started the real estate game. Luckily, I was making a decent amount at a young age, but working a lot of overtime. And then that's what got me started in real estate. So, yeah, that's pretty much my story, exactly how it went down.
I feel like there was a lot of bumps and bruises through there. And then, you know, I really like that you're open to tell us that you like failed, because I feel like a lot of people, you know, see social media and like, man, this guy's been successful his whole life and he's done this, this, and this, but no one can relate to like the failures that we've had, you know, to get to where we want to be. And then, you know, like you said, you went back to like working at a grocery store at 19. That must've been pretty humbling. But you know, you dug yourself out of that and you continued to work. So I think that's really cool.
Yeah. I mean, well, the hardest part about that is like only being in the Navy for just over a year. Right. Because a lot of people, when they hear that, they're like, oh, you can't get out in less than your 4 years or whatever without other than honorable. It was such a like unique situation that I went in on that it's hard to explain. So I usually I'm surprised I even brought it up on this show, but it's like, hey, it is what it is. You know, that I ended up getting out, and it was good. And, you know, luckily I did get an honorable because of the situation. It was kind of a unique thing. So yeah, there's been several failures. You know, I did, you know, like I said, I went to the apprentice lineman school, became a journeyman. And then right after I became a journeyman lineman in 2011, I ended up in 2012, I quit the company. And because my real dad died when I was little, when I was 10 years old. And then my stepdad died when I was 22, right after I became a journeyman. And so it just like messed with me mentally, you know, and felt like I needed to help my mom. I didn't know if I wanted to do the lineman thing forever. I hadn't really got into real estate investing yet. So I quit the company. Didn't have any money saved up. I owned one house, you know, I was like paying my mortgage. So what ended up happening is I was with my wife now, but we were girlfriend, boyfriend at the time. And we, you know, that was so stressful that we ended up breaking up. I ran out of all my money that I had in my bank account, paying my mortgage, you know, because I like just quit. So I ended up having to go back to the company, and luckily I got rehired 11 months later, like just about a year later. So I got rehired. That was in the end of 2012, and went back doing line work again for another, until I just left this last year, 2020. So another 7 years I did it. So there's been, lots of ups and downs, like lost a lot of money, made bad decisions, like broke up with my girlfriend that we later rekindled it and then ended up getting married. And now we have 4 kids. So ended up working out, but like those times in life are freaking horrible, and I don't even have any advice to like push through other than like, what are you going to do? Like, you got to keep on going, right? You got to like try to keep making progress. So that's what I did,
Yeah. It's interesting because like, I think we've all gone through, or a lot of us has probably gone through situations that are tough. And we're like, well, what'd you do to get through that? Or what advice do you have? And sometimes there isn't an advice. There isn't a, like, this is the answer to this. Sometimes it's just, I'll never forget, Real Estate Old School on Instagram, rest in peace. He was on my mastermind one time, and man, it really hit me home when he was like, dude, sometimes I just have to get up and put my left boot on, put my right boot on, strap them up and go. Like, sometimes there isn't advice. Sometimes there's just not a right answer. And sometimes there's just like, I don't know, dude, I just had to wake up that morning and go through the day and go through the emotions and believe that it's going to get better. And I would say most of the time, Lord willing, it does get better for us. So thanks for sharing the story, man. I know there's probably going to be some people that are like, wow, I can relate to that. And I've never heard, I thought real estate investors had just had a cush life their whole life, right? Like there's been no hard times in their life. So thanks for that. So,
and really quick, one of the things that's very important too, is that a lot of people may feel like, oh, because I didn't go to college or I failed out of college or whatever, that they might think that they may not be successful, especially when you compare yourself with other people and you get your family saying, hey, you should have done this. Why don't you go to college, right? So I feel like the way that like a lot of people, because of the fact that a lot of people think that you need that to be successful, I feel like that's not true. Right. I went to college. I got a degree. My brother went to college. I mean, my brother didn't go to college and he has his company and everything. And you didn't go to college from that perspective, and now have passive income, have 3 quadplexes. So, I mean, at the end of the day, the real estate investing part, you do not have to be a genius. You may just need to know that 1 + 1 = 2. And if you get a return from that, then why not?
Yeah, totally. And, honestly, like my wife and I talk about this all the time for our kids, is that I don't necessarily want them to go to college. I don't, if they want to do it, like that's cool. But especially for our son, he's 13 now. He's super smart, like mechanically. He works on stuff. I mean, he builds motorized, like gas powered bicycles for like people in the neighborhood and sells them for $500 a pop, like he does all kinds of things. And if he wants to go to college, that's great. I kind of would rather push him to like go towards the military or, go to a tech school or do like even just go start building houses, right? Because like the blue collar, like labor trade is so understaffed right now, like coming in our new age, because everybody's thought they should go to college. So there's not a lot of people there, and there's tons of money to be made. I mean, I have, friends that make close to 7 figures a year just being contractors, and nobody would even know, they're dirty. They got their work trucks. They're making 700, 800, 900 grand a year, like literally that much money. And people don't even know. They have no idea, but they're just because they're out there killing it, So going to college is definitely not always necessary and might not even be preferred. Now with my daughters, it's just the fact that there's not as many like hardworking blue collar, like labor jobs that they're going to like want to do. Not that they can't. Like I've met female linemen and stuff, there's not very many, maybe 1 out of 500 linemen is a female. So maybe they would want to go to college more, or I push them towards real estate, like go be a real estate agent. You know what I mean? Or go to the military or something like that. So college is definitely not needed. All the time, unless you're gonna be a doctor, I guess you probably need some college then.
Yeah.
I want my doctor to go to college. Better go to college.
Yeah. And for a long time too, just in case. Yeah. So when you went back home, right, back to California, when you bought your first couple of properties, did you use the VA loan?
I didn't use the VA loan. Okay. I didn't even think about it. And part of the reason I do have it available, but I kind of don't feel like I deserve it. You know what I mean?
Okay.
Because I was only in for a year. So I do have it available to me because I got it offered, through whatever. But I didn't really want to use it because I feel like it should be for people that actually like deserve to use the VA loan. So no, I didn't, but I did use the FHA loan for the first property. And then every property after that, I've just ended up putting 20% down on all the subsequent properties. Well, not all of them, some, I think two personal residences, I put 10% down, but for the most part, I put 20% down. Conventional loans.
Okay. And for the audience here, with owner occupant loans, with a VA loan, you can buy a home by putting down zero money down. With an FHA, minimum 3.5% down. And of course, conventional, if you're going to be living in it, 3 to 5% down. But if it's an investment, around 20% down, just for everybody here.
Yeah. And with the VA loan too, like they're amazing. And I probably could benefit from it greatly. You do have to pay like some fees though, right? It's like $7,500. Could be more, could be less, but certain fees. But yeah, again, I just didn't, I don't feel like I want to use it. I'm not going to push that, I don't want to take advantage of it. So I'm not.
For sure. And that's totally fine, dude. And it talks a bit too about the integrity that you have, right? Like be like, hey, I don't deserve it. At least I feel like I don't deserve it. I'm not going to take advantage of that and take the place of somebody else who actually does deserve it.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, exactly. So
you guys are better men than I am. I'd have used it.
Well, too,
I just felt better men than I am.
Too, I just felt like I was making decent enough money. I was like, I don't know. I always feel like when you use up some sort of resource, it's like taking away from somebody else, and that might not be the case because there's so much out there and so many people. But I don't know. It's just like a mental thing. I just feel like I can't do it. I don't know.
No, I get it, and that's. No, I'm just kidding, man. No, I totally get it. I agree with Diego. Like integrity is huge, and if just personally you feel like it's not, you feel like you're taking up the spot of someone that might really need it or really want to use it. Yeah, and kudos to you for sure. Now,
even with the like insurance, now that I don't have insurance because I left my job, I have the ability, I don't know if it's for my whole family, but to get VA medical, I still have to pay into it. But like, I'd rather just pay more from the open market again, because I just I don't know, feel like they should like direct those funds to people that are actually like war veterans and like people that have real issues going on. So anyways, yeah.
Good for you, man. Says a lot about who you are. I'm going to bring it back a little bit. You said you went from living in Cali to moving to Boise, Idaho. Can you tell us why or what happened there?
Yeah. So where we lived out in California was in Northern California up by Lake Tahoe. Beautiful area. Like that's where my wife and I were both born and raised. I mean, amazing. It's just on the map. It's in between Lake Tahoe and Yosemite. So it's up in the Sierra Nevada. Amazing place, but real small town. We only had like, in the main town that we lived in, there's maybe 1,500 or 2,000 people in that town. And like our high school, for example, that we went to had 900 kids in it when I went to school there, but 11 towns went to that high school. Right. So 900 kids in a high school is like a decent amount, but the entire county pretty much went to that one high school. So there's just not a lot of people. So we were kind of thinking about where did we want to move to? Because we knew we didn't want to stay there forever. My wife and I both. We wanted to at least try something else. And, we like snow. We like mountains. We want to be in a landlord-friendly area. So it kind of like, it narrowed our search results pretty much to Colorado, Montana, Wyoming, Utah, Idaho. Right? There's like we had 5 choices because of the stuff that we liked. And then we happened to have family that lived here in Idaho. So this is ended up where we moved to. Now, another part of the story, it's like the ups and downs. We moved here first in 2017. So I took a leave of absence from work, expecting to quit. I took a year-long leave of absence. Ended up only being a couple months. So we moved here, sold our place out, our primary residence in California, bought a place up here. I moved my whole family, the whole shebang, put the kids in school. And then some family stuff come up. We got overly stressed out. I wasn't finding ways to make money as easily as I thought. Turned around 5 months later, moved the whole family back to California. It was like a giant waste of time, waste of money, probably cost me $100,000. In the long run, you know what I mean? Between buying and selling houses, paying commissions, all that stuff. So luckily I had my job still. So then we ended up moving back here again this year in 2020 after like recalibrating. Okay, let's make sure this is really what we want to do. Let's get our finances a little bit better straightened out. And we moved back here again. So my story, man, there's like lots of ups and downs and like bad decisions, good decisions. But I don't know. Hopefully I'll end up ahead in the long run. We'll see.
Yeah. So at what point then did you buy the 3 duplexes? When you moved there in 27, the 3 quadplexes, was it when you moved in 2017 or was it very recent?
Yeah, it was right before, or like maybe right after we moved here, right around the same time. I can't remember if it was before or after, but right around the same time. And it was likely right before because I had regular loans on it. So I had a job right when I got the loans on the property. So that was kind of the reason I bought those was to have cash flow to help me survive when I got here. I 1031'd into those properties. I sold a duplex and 1 single family in California at that time, and 1031 those into these 4plexes, which that's kind of a cool story in itself because I've told this before. When I bought my first house, I didn't have any money to buy it, right? Because I was only 20 and I was buying in the Bay Area, or 21, whatever I was. And so what I did is I sold my truck, I sold my car to get my down payment for my house. And I had to come up with $18,000. I remember that because the house I bought was $300,000. After closing costs and everything, I needed $18,000. I didn't have $18,000. So I sold my truck, sold my dirt bike, sold everything I could, and I got the $18,000. Well, after fixing up that house, selling it, buying another house, refinancing it, buying a rental, cash out refinancing, buying a duplex, doing all this stuff, that $18,000 has now grown into almost $700,000 in equity with my 4plexes. Awesome. You know what I mean? So
you're doing all right.
Yeah, it's all been going up like slowly, right? But it's just funny how I had no money, so I sold a truck and a dirt bike, and that $18,000 is growing to that $700,000 in equity, and $60,000 a year in passive income for just those 3 4plexes. So it's pretty cool. It's a cool story.
That's awesome. Now, question for you on so how did you find those 3 properties? Were they on the MLS? Were they through a wholesaler?
Yeah. So at the time I had no idea about going like to off-market properties. I had no idea. Like, I didn't even know you could go direct to seller, at the time. I probably had an idea, but it just wasn't in my wheelhouse. I had no knowledge of it. Didn't even want to try it. And in 2017, it's like the prices were still pretty reasonable here around in the Idaho area. So these were just strictly on the market. I remember we came out here to look for investment properties, strictly to look for them, because I knew I was going to 1031. Excuse me. And so yeah, we looked at, like, I found them in one weekend. I went with an agent that we knew, and she lined out like, I don't know, 20 or so 4plexes for us to look at in the whole valley. It's like quite a big area here around Boise. So we went out and we just looked at them all weekend, and these ones just happened to be like an hour out of Boise in this town called Mountain Home by the Air Force Base, like I was saying, and went down there to look at one of them. And she said, "Oh, by the way, there's all of these are for sale." She said one just went pending, but they're all 4 for sale. And I was like, "Well, I'll buy all 3 of them. Let's make an offer on all 3." So we got a little bit of a discount, for buying all 3 of them, because it was a lady that, I don't know why she was selling, but she had hundreds of properties and she was just selling them all over the place. So bought all 3 of them and got each one for, I think each one was $267,000 for each property. I put like $200,000 down, but it was all 1031 money. So none of it came out of my pocket. And at the time, I think the average rent in each unit was like $650, right?
Okay.
So let's see, 6 times 4, 200. So it was like probably like right around the 1% rule at the time. And now those rents have increased. I think my average rent's like $800 on all 12 of those units. maybe a little bit over 800, and gross rent is like 10,100 a month right now. And then I just refinance because interest rates are so low. So my total bills for the property, including property management and everything, is like 4,700 a month or something.
Oh, so good for you. Home run.
Yeah, it's worked out. But I should have bought more.
Exactly.
I should have done more, but
that's everyone's problem. That's always like, man, I really wish I would have bought more properties. Like no one ever says, oh man, I shouldn't have bought this many.
Yeah. Well, mentally, I did get caught up, and I'm still kind of caught up in that, to where I have bought a few properties since then. In 2017, when I bought these, I think I've bought 1, 2, 3, 4 other properties since then. But I wasn't going as fast as I wanted to, because I was kind of thinking like, man, these prices keep going up. The cash flow numbers aren't quite there. I didn't feel comfortable like going far out of state to buy them, which is just my own lack of understanding and willing to push it, But I've kind of got caught up in the price appreciation and like feeling like there's going to be a crash, and there still hasn't. So I'm still actively looking to buy. I'm like, hopefully under contract today on another triplex.
Cool.
But mentally it's hard to like fight that battle of just thinking you're paying at the top.
Yeah, that's definitely one that I think all investors have struggled getting over. My mentor one time told me, look, if your goal is to hold them for 30 years, the purchase price is probably the last thing that I remember. Like, yeah, that I remember it once, and that's when I bought it. And then the next 29 years, 364 days, I don't really remember that, because I'm holding it forever. Like that purchase price in 5 years is like, oh, wow, I actually got that at a really good discount, right? 5 years down the road. Now that day you might be like, dang, did I pay $5,000 more than I should have? But realistically, like, does that matter 5, 10, 15 years down the road? Probably not, because our goal is cash flow. Now, if you're like flipping the property, well, then clearly you don't want to pay over or whatever. But, the strategy that you use for the property is really important to determine, do you actually care if you paid $1,000, $2,000 over, or is it worth it because you ended up with a contract and you're getting the appreciation, the tax incentives, the cash flow, the loan pay down by the tenants? Like all of a sudden the purchase price, you're not going to pay thousands of dollars over, but it's almost falls short to everything else because of, if you ran your numbers correctly, the deal could be, really, really good long term.
Totally. My wife and I were just thinking about this. So we do the 75 hard program, Andy Versella. And so we do our exercises and stuff. And yesterday we were doing our walk together. And we were talking about this, and it was about this triplex that hopefully I'm going to get today. And she's like, listen, just because mentally, now I'm not working, like I have this small mindset that's always fighting me. And she's telling me, she's like, well, just who cares if you pay 20 extra grand on it? It doesn't matter. She's like, because she brought up the point. She said, every property we've ever bought, we felt like we overpaid. And I was like, that's true. And she said, remember all the offers we've put on over the last 5 years? Because we've put tons of offers on stuff. But again, my small mindset keeps me from closing on them because I think I'm overpaying. She's like, every single one of those would have been a home run if you look at it now. And I'm like, gosh, you're so right.
That's a good way to see it.
That's a good way. That's a really good way to look at it. Like, where is it at now? I'll give you Justin, that's a great woman. Keep her around. Don't mess that up. Okay. That's a good situation to be in.
Yeah. She cooks good. Cooks good too.
Oh, she could. Oh man, I'm coming over. We're doing the podcast at your house next. No, but what's really interesting about that is I recently lost a deal and I put it on my social media over $500. Okay. This property, it's ridiculous. This property cash flow is amazing. And I put a contingency on like any offer that comes in, I'm going to pay $500 over up to like a certain amount. And somebody literally bid $500 more than my escalation clause. Yeah. And I thought about it and I was like, wow, I just lost this deal emotionally because I didn't want to overpay. And as a seasoned investor, I know better than that, right? Like I'm usually willing to overpay 1 year's worth of cash flow on rental property. So if like I'm going to make, I don't know, $10,000 that year or whatever, fill in the blank, I'm willing to usually pay at least 1 year's worth of cash flow over. And I was like, no, I'm not going to do that here. I'm just going to put $500 over and then that's it. And someone beat me over $500. And now long-term, that's so stupid. I'm like, man, I should have locked that deal up all day. And it's a learning process for us because I think sometimes as men, our ego gets in the way. Like, let's just be honest. I'm like, no, I'm not going to overpay for that property. Like, I'm not going to be the guy that gets suckered, if that makes sense. But at the end of the day, the guy that gets it or the girl that gets it, it's like she's thinking or he's thinking long term. When we're thinking more short term price, they're thinking long term investment, right?
Yeah.
And I think that's probably usually the difference between those.
Yeah, I mean, it's easy to say not to do it and easy to say not to be small minded, but for me
We all do
anyways,
it. I did it a month ago.
yeah, it's a different thing to actually like take the actual action, which comes into play, I think, right now with my business and stuff. Maybe we'll get into that in a second, but it's like actually making the moves, the correct moves, and making the offers more based on purely the numbers and letting your emotion get into it. It's just like, it's easier said than done sometimes, but we have to practice and push our limits.
100%. Justin, can I ask you, I see back there, you have a beautiful family picture over your bed there.
Yeah.
Can you talk about the mental of investing in real estate, like while having a family, being a father? You think you said you have 4 beautiful kids.
Mm-hmm.
Can you talk a little bit about how that's like how that plays a role?
Yeah. I mean, my wife's mostly been a stay-at-home mom since we started having kids. I mean, we owned a gym, and she had her own business for a while and things like that. And she was a real estate agent. So she's done a lot of stuff, but like her primary thing was to like stay at home. So my job was mostly to like make the money. And then she would help out obviously as much as she could, and did great running the business that she had in the gym and stuff. So as relating to real estate, I kind of feel like it's, for one, I need to learn this good so I can teach them, like how they can like not just rely on their paycheck month to month. And for 2, I kind of got the idea from Brandon Turner, on Bigger Pockets. He brought up the thing where with his daughter, his first kid, he bought her a property, and that was going to be like her college fund. And so part of my thought is like, well, with these 3 4-plexes, maybe I'm not going to give these to them when they're 18 or whatever, but at least I'll refinance them at that time and then take that out. And if they want to go to college, I'll pay for it that way, or help them with their first house or something like that. But the main goal of not the main goal, I guess, one of the big goals of real estate investing is just to like learn it good enough so I can show them that it's like possible to get these properties and get cash flow, like passive income. Because I never heard about that as a kid. My parents had a small business, not super successful at times. And so they didn't have any passive income. The only passive income or investing they really did was, my mom was smart and told me to like open an Edward Jones account or she helped me open it when I was like 16. But, I just put all the money into it myself, So it's mainly just to show them that there's like another way. We don't have to like be slaves to the job.
100% agree with that.
Yeah, dude. And now, so one of the things that you mentioned was that you are now trying to look for off-market deals, doing your business, all of that stuff. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, and relating to the family thing, because now I'm working from home, as you guys can see, that I'm in my bedroom, which is a little bit annoying that I have like an office and a bedroom in the same, because we sold our house in California. It's like a big, nice house with an office and all that stuff. And now we got this small house here in Idaho, and I'm in my bedroom. So working from home is kind of gets hectic with the kids here also, you know what I mean? Like running around and trying to take my attention at all different times. But the business is, I'm trying to, the main goal to start the business was to find my own off-market deals to like buy them as rental properties. Mostly I want to get owner financing, which, talking about that triplex, hopefully will be an owner finance deal. They're into it. But as deals come across, I'll wholesale them or fix them up and sell them. Now, I thought I would be way better at this when I started and when I left my job than I am turning out to be. It's actually turning out to be very difficult. Like I did join a mastermind group, Ryan Dossey's group. I don't know if that's okay to say, but I did. Ryan Dossey's group, and to teach me how to like build the business, build the social brand, build the website, market to sellers and all that stuff. And it's fantastic information. It works 100% of the time to get your phone to ring. Where it's not working that well for me, I think, is on my conversion skills, my negotiation skills, closing the deal. It's actually been extremely difficult for me. I've put $58,000 into the business since I started. And I have several deals that are pending contract, but actually no closed deals. So it's not all roses and rainbows. It's definitely harder in some markets than others. And it's probably not even the market. It's probably, again, like me, that I'm doing something wrong, So that's pretty much what the business is. I don't know if you can call it a business if it's not being like profitable.
So
But
that's interesting you mentioned that, because and when you said, is it okay to say, of course it's okay, dude. Like that's totally normal.
Yeah.
I went through the CCF program as well and completely tanked.
Mhm.
Like I wasn't good at it. And then what I did was, it's I'm stubborn. It's really hard for me to give up on something.
Yeah.
And I'm like, okay, if I'm going to do this, I'm going to figure this out. So I kind of like did a stop loss and canceled everything. I just said, screw it. I've lost all that money, whatever, it's gone.
Yeah.
And then what I did was, I got in a partnership with a buddy of mine that wants to really learn real estate. And I was like, okay, we can do this. I just didn't do it right. We got to figure this out. So instead of mailers, I did cold calls. Instead of other mailers, I did text blasting.
Mhm.
And in 30 days, we closed $16,000 in assignment fees.
Sweet.
And the difference for me was, I'm not saying this is for everyone, but I'm saying this for our listeners. In business, there's always a couple different ways to look at it. And for me, I was just waiting for my phone to ring with the mailers that went out. And I was just dumping money into advertising and a bunch of this stuff. And I wasn't getting anything. And then I quickly realized, I'm like, that's not who Felipe is. Like, that's not who I am as a businessman. Like, entrepreneurially, I'm a active entrepreneur, not a reactive entrepreneur.
Mhm.
So for me, it was tough to sit there and just like stare at my phone and wait for it to ring. I was like, no, I'm going to find a way to make this wholesaling business work as an active investor. Like, I'm going to actively be calling people. And it's been the best success that we've had. Completely 180'd my business in wholesaling. And I think we're going to do really well this year, Lord willing. But it did start out with me just losing money. And I couldn't figure it out. And then I stopped, lost. I cut everything. I told Ryan, I was like, I'm sorry, you have a great program, but this just doesn't work for me. This is what I'm doing. And it's worked for me there. Like, I had to stop and look myself in the mirror. Am I that type of investor? And I was like, that's just not who I am.
Yeah, no, that's definitely.
I'm lucky I did it quick.
Yeah, that's cool. I started the same thing. I kind of I like the mail, but I want to do it more for like targeted mailing, right? For maybe stuff that I want to personally buy, because then I can offer a little bit more based on what the rents are going to be. I have started just recently cold calling and texting. Part of the reason why my expenses are so high is because, I was still, I have a separate business back in California that I'm working on a lot. And then plus when I first started, I was still working. And so I hired people to do a lot of the roles. So that's part of the reason why my expenses are so high, because I was paying for employees that I wasn't good at the business yet. So I wasn't teaching them well. So it was kind of like one of those things, like I wouldn't have lost so much money if I didn't have money, but because I had money, I didn't feel so bad to lose it. But now at this point, I've like lost so much. So I'm like, okay, we got to like figure this out. You know what I mean? Because I could have bought 2 other properties, like rental properties, with this money that I've spent so far. So it's just not always rainbows and roses, I got to just keep focusing and like keep pushing forward. I'm going to figure it out. And even if I only get, at this point, if I close on this triplex, which hopefully I do, I'm going to be buying it 30% under market value right now. It's going to close cash flow quite a bit. So that's going to make me more in equity than I've spent on the business already. So even if I only do this one deal, like, it's going to still be a profitable deal. You know what I mean? A profitable venture thus far, but I'm going to continue. I'm going to do this. I got a couple more months.
Got this.
Yeah. But one thing I want to bring up about this is like when, like, I did leave my job, right? Long time ago on Bigger Pockets, they say, like, if you try to go out on your own, what's the worst thing that can happen? You just have to go back to this normal, what everybody else does every day. Especially me being a lineman, one of the keys to me becoming a lineman was that I knew once I became a journeyman, I can do line work anywhere. I can do it anytime. I can quit on a Friday and have a new job on Monday, because there's not a lot of linemen out there. So It's not saying that I won't ever go back to line work. I have the ability to, to go back and work maybe 3 or 4 months out of the year. I can go to California. I can stay here in Idaho. I can do the job kind of like as I want, come and go as I please. So that's really given me the ability to like take the chance and take the risk to go do something different. It doesn't mean I'm done with it forever. I would like to be, but hey, bumps and ups and downs in the roads, you know what I mean? Like what's happened so far. So that's where I'm at currently.
Yeah, and especially if you're going to be able to get paid well, you can see it as a bridge, right? Where like it's like, hey, I'm going to do this for 3 months, get the cash, and then go back to Boise, Idaho, and invest it for passive income. So I feel like when people have that mindset, then it becomes okay. Even if you don't like enjoy it as much, you can still just do it for 2-3 months, be able to have that income and invest it.
Yeah. And like I was telling my wife, it's like, I'm kind of struggling mentally because I'm like losing money. I'm not being successful as quickly as I thought I would be. So I was kind of telling her the other day, like, man, I wish maybe we made the wrong choice. But she said the perfect thing. She's like, well, if we didn't leave then, we would still be thinking about it every single day about wanting to leave and wanting to try it. We'd still be wanting to do it. And so we'd probably just do it next year. So I had to try, and I'm glad I did. And I'm going to keep trying and keep moving forward. And like, I just figure every fail is just like closer to that next success. So it's just easier said than done again,
Yeah, absolutely. I think you're definitely going to be super successful in your entrepreneurial ventures. And I think this is just part of your story. Like, I feel like we all have those ups and downs, but it's kind of like you said earlier, like if you just look back at where you started to where you're at now, like we sometimes forget to also celebrate the W's as how far we've gotten. Right. I feel like we have like 3 fails and then a win, and then like a couple fails and then a win. And I feel like that's just entrepreneurial life, to be honest. I feel like I feel like I fail daily, and it almost feels like it overshadows the success. But being financially independent, I'm like, man, my whole life I wished for the life that I have now. And all I can see is like what's still ahead. And I keep forgetting at looking at like where I'm at now. Right. Like I sometimes forget to like enjoy the moments because I'm so focused on like, I got to get to this level, or I got to get to this, or I got to do this, or I got to get that next rental property, fill in the blank. And it's like, you kind of forget to enjoy how far you've already come, for me anyways. Like that's one of the things that gets me a lot. I'm like, man, I've made it this far. Like I should just be glad like that I've even gotten this far, because I don't even deserve to be this far. Right. So I feel like that times that overshadows what we've already done. It's like, I still have to go do all this other stuff. Right. Because like you see it on Instagram.
I know, totally. Well, and one of the beauties about real estate is, even though I haven't been working and I've been losing money trying to start this, my net worth has gone up since I've been here, because of the real estate. Now that's just because of appreciation and prices are going up, and that could come down, but it's nice to see that, I'm now worth more than I was when I moved here. And I still have cash flow coming in. We've put into some syndications as well, so we get other passive income. And like I said, it's cool. It's just it's a work in progress, let me tell you.
Yeah.
Justin, seriously, man, just what a story. And I can't wait to get you back on in a couple of years and be like, how's the wholesale thing going? You're like, dude, I'm doing millions of dollars, right? So like, I can't wait till we get you back.
I had this vision in my head of like, when I'm super successful, right? Like an Ed Milet, maybe not Ed Milet, but hopefully, and I'm up on a stage and I tell people all my ups and downs, and I spent this much before my business made any money. And like, I replayed this story in my head, what I'm going to say. I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing, but I do it all the time. Like literally, I'm always thinking about what I'm going to say about the struggles.
I think that's awesome, man. Well, honestly, Justin, we're going to wrap this up, dude. What an awesome story that you have so far. Seriously. Thanks for being vulnerable. I know that sometimes it's a little hard as investors to like talk about our losses, because we're so used to and keen to talking about our wins. Right. So that's exactly what we're doing here. We're showing everyone that it's not all roses. So thank you so much for being vulnerable. Justin, do you have anything that you wish that we would have asked you that you want to talk about before we get up out of here?
No, I think we had covered it all. I like said things that I haven't said on any other podcast before, which is good. And then just to know, like, when you see investors, there's a lot of times people, they don't show their whole story, like you said, on Instagram and stuff. And whether they were gifted money for something and they weren't telling people that, or, they've had tons of losses and not telling people that, like my story is just as bumpy as anybody else's. And there's people that are way worse off, So yeah. I think you covered it all. You did a good job. Thank you.
Cool, Justin. Well, where can people find you if they want to reach out? What's the name of your podcast, all of that stuff?
Yeah. So the podcast is Real Estate Investing 365. That's on all the major stuff. There's a YouTube channel, and then Instagram, like I said, I'm not a huge fan, but I am on there daily, whether I like it or not. So Justin.Hannah365, and Hannah is like a Hannah. So that's it. Reach out to me. I'll answer any questions or help anybody out, whatever they need.
Justin, thank you so much for being on the show, man. We really appreciate it. Guys, go follow Justin on Instagram. Listen to his podcast. It's actually really, really good. He's into real estate and fitness. Definitely go look out for that. So, Justin, we appreciate you, buddy.
Yeah. Thanks, guys. Have a good day.
Take care, bro.
The Rat Race to 5 podcast, where we discuss money, mindset, real estate investing, and ways to achieve financial independence. Whether you are a rookie or a veteran needing new ideas for investing or creating side hustles, you're in the right place.